What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Founders Cut podcast. If you're here on Substack and you're watching, thank you guys for subscribing or just tuning in for today's episode. If you're watching on my YouTube channel, whether it be Asia Branch AI or the Affirmed Studios YouTube channel, welcome back to the channel. Now, today we're not going to talk about, my cliche topics where I'm talking about like my Calvary series or creating things with AI or what Christians should be doing in this age of the AI age, I should say. Today I'm offering another reaction to another DC trailer, teaser trailer. Now, you guys know, obviously, from my last tirade, when I went off about the Lanterns series, that I had a lot to say and I had no problem swearing up the wazoo. For today's episode and reaction, and let me be clear, when I say reaction, I don't mean I'm going to play this trailer at all. I'm just going to talk about it. And I may show some visuals if I decide to, but I'm trying to protect, my psyche. And I don't even really want to show those visuals. Anyways, I had a lot to say about the Lantern Corps and I swore up the wazoo and I will try my hardest not to do that today, where I'm doing a whole bunch of swearing. I intend to keep that as much as possible because I think there is a lesson that needs to be taught here. And I don't want to come off preachy. I really, really don't. But I mean, I'm so sick and tired of what I'm seeing, not just from the studios, but even from these audiences. It's bothersome and something has to be said about it. And I think it's something that we as Christians need to be concerned about and why it's important that we learn this lesson. I don't know about you, but I watched that ridiculously disturbing teaser trailer of Clayface. Now, for those of us who are DC comic fans, whether it be the actual comic books, well, Batman the animated series or Batman the cartoon series that came out in like 2004 through 2006, I believe, 2004 2008, I believe is when it was aired. The Justice League cartoons, whether you're looking at Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, those series specifically, then this Clayface teaser trailer that we've seen is so not hitting the mark for any of us. And there's a reason for that. And honestly, I'm not even going to go down the rabbit hole of everything that it seems to be lacking as far as how this connects to the Justice League down the road or to a Batman movie that James Gunn was talking about wanting to create. I'm not even going down the rabbit hole because, to be fair, we only saw a teaser trailer. But what I did see, I still took issue with it, okay? Because what the creators of this show chose to show audiences was disturbing. And what makes it even worse is that what they showed was affirmed by the audience. These creators for Clayface chose grotesque imagery over identity, that they chose disturbing over a really good story. And what makes it crazy is that the audience, in my opinion, is as disturbed as the people who created this horror version of Clayface. And that choice that they went with shows a deeper cultural shift because these audiences kept saying stuff about how real it is. And I think that the idea of realism from this audience is bothersome because their version of it is replacing real meaning of a story and of a character with disturbance over moral conflict, and faith in humanity is being eroded by disturbing visual imagery, and the audiences are okay with it. Now, before I jump all into this, again, let me be clear that this was just a teaser trailer, so this is not a reaction video about how bad this movie is or how good it is. To be quite frank, I have no intention on watching this movie, okay? Because, again, the creators chose to introduce this in a way that bothers me, and it should bother fans of the DC universe. Those of us who valued Batman the animated series and the Batman cartoon of 2004 to 2008 and the Justice League cartoon, it should bother us, that trailer, big time. I was so infuriated when I saw the teaser, and I watched the teaser trailer yesterday. But then today I went looking for reaction videos with the hopes that I would not have to do this. I did not want to have to react to this trailer because I just knew that there was going to be someone who agreed with me. And there was none of that. I just saw affirmations. I saw agreement, and that pissed me off even more. I went on a lunch break and called my sister and said, yo, I got a vent. Not about how bad the day was, not because my supervisor was getting on my nerves, but because the reaction videos to the teaser trailer got me as heated as the trailer itself. People were saying, this looks so real. I love it. This is interesting, some of them were saying. That this looks different, and I think I might like it. Because I like it when it's different. And then in the comment section of those reaction videos, if Gotham villains were real, this is how they would actually be. And that response says more than the teaser trailer itself, okay? It totally does. Now, again, this is a teaser trailer, so we have no idea if we're going to see Batman, if Bruce Wayne at all is in this movie. We don't really know what the full story is, right? We have no clue. Again, it's just a teaser, which is like, I think the teaser was maybe like a minute, if that long. But again, what do we know? What we know is that there's grotesque transformation. Violent and disturbing physical transformation. Like, he doesn't look like a man made of clay. That this movie is about exposing Clayface identity through distortion. That's what we're getting with this. Now, when I hear Clayface, I imagine a man made of clay, because that's every version. No matter which character of Clayface, because there's like 1,000 different Clayfaces, like we know this, but the one that these creators chose to go with is a Clayface from way back in like the 60s comic books. This is not the Clayface from Justice League Unlimited that we saw joining the secret society of villains. This is not the Clayface that was in the Batman cartoon in 2004 to 2008, which was Ethan Bennett, one of Bruce Wayne's best friends. Personally, that's the one I would have gone with. It's not even the Clayface from the animated series. No, we get the horror actor who becomes a serial killer. That's the one they wanted to go with. And again, they chose this because it's a horror movie. So that's the one that they chose to go with. And they didn't want to make a comic book movie. Let's be clear here. This movie is as disturbing and has a similar tone to that disturbing movie with Demi Moore, The Substance. And I'm not even exaggerating. The character himself, literally, he gets attacked, face gets all cut up, and he's an actor, so oh my gosh, I need to get my face back. He takes a substance to try and get his face back, and then his body mutates and warps. But now, instead of turning into a man made of clay, it's his skin that we're watching mutate and morph into something. And it's disgusting. It's grotesque. What is the problem with these creators? Could you not give me Clayface? And then the reaction is not rejecting the substance take of Clayface. It's not concern, but curiosity, interest, and engagement with it. They want this. They are okay with this. Don't get me wrong. I am super pissed with James Gunn right now. He's a total liar. He lied. Straight up lied. Don't say you're trying to create the world of the Justice League cartoon, and then you give us this nonsense with lanterns, and then this with Clayface. So don't get me wrong, I'm mad with James Gunn, and I'm mad with the studio, but I'm more concerned about the audience, because why weren't they disturbed by this? And if they were, why are they okay with being disturbed? And that's where the question really lies, because what does it say about our culture that that's what the people want, that that's what the audience wants? When disturbance feels normal and real and even appealing to people, we should be disgusted. When people say that if the Gotham villains were real and were in real life, this is how it would be. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Who asked for real? Who asked for that? We asked for the cartoons to be made live action. No one asked for this real, by their definition of what real is. Comic stories were never meant to flatten, I should say, reality, right? Where it shows the darkest parts of humanity. It was never meant to do that. It was meant to elevate humanity, provide symbolic weight, and to provide human meaning, and to provide moral clarity. Clayface is not meant to feel like some random sociopath. He's not meant to be that. He was meant to feel like a man who fell from some kind of grace, a man living the height of his life. Again, why I don't like the fact that they went with this version of Clayface and not Ethan Bennett from the cartoon, because he was a cop. I preferred that version. If you didn't want to go with one from the Justice League than the one you give us as the Ethan Bennett character who was best friends to Bruce Wayne, who was a cop. And that version of Clayface would mean that we are watching a man who fell from grace. We're watching how this tragedy is connected to the character's identity. But no, we went with the serial killer. That's what they chose to, and that's what the audience was okay with. And they chose to do this in a disturbing and grotesque way. And what did the creators say? But we wanted to make a real horror movie. Well, Jeepers Creepers was a scary movie. That movie was terrifying. So much so, I'll never forget sitting in my older sister's house, I was getting my hair braided, and they put Jeepers Creepers on. This is when DVDs were still a thing. I know they're making a comeback, but still, they were still a thing. The DVD was skipping. And so the only way to stop it from freezing and skipping, they hit the skip button, and the next scene was Jeepers Creepers' face in front of the window of the bus, and me and my twin sister screamed so loud you would have thought we were being murdered. This movie was terrifying. It was unsettling and terrifying, but it wasn't grotesque and it wasn't disturbing. You didn't walk away from this movie saying, this is what humanity really is. It's like, no, you walk away from this movie saying, this mofo was scary. This guy was scary. That fear was used as a tool. Fear. And so what clarity can we gain? That it's not to be without fear, but to overcome it. And that's how you can survive the reign of Jeepers Creepers. Your moral clarity by the end of the first and second movie. Maybe not obvious to some, but that's generally the thesis, if you will, by the end of this movie that you can walk away with. There's a boundary, and now it's getting thinner. That line, that moment where he takes the kid's head off and he grows his own head. This is not disturbing. Silence of the Lambs. This is a man who eats people. And it wasn't disturbing. Terrifying, but not disturbing nor grotesque. What happened to normal horror films? Why did they do this? And why the heck are audiences okay with that? Something's wrong with the audience. And I get it. Studios did this. They created a demand for this. So they are not without blame. But at some point, an audience can dictate what they do not want to see. We said we didn't want to see woke anymore. And now that the government isn't subsidizing these studios, they have to change up the game plans. They need a different coach. They're changing the writers and the producers. Heck, Kurtzman could see himself out of a job because we're so sick of woke and Star Trek. No one's getting subsidized for this woke crap anymore. So finally, the audience gets power for their franchises. And this is what you applaud? Just found out about the story. Watched a podcast. This podcaster goes on about the Substance director, how she withheld information, took stuff out the script to hand over to the producers who produced Notting Hill and Love Actually. She omitted things from the scene, from the script. She lied to them. And if it were me, and I realized when I finally go to the movie premiere that this is a body horror, she would be blackballed from directing and pitching any movies for at least 2 to 5 years until she learned her lesson. But the only reason why this chick isn't getting any kind of a consequence is because the movie made money. But it could only do that because audiences wanted it. And again, studios created the demand. But you now have the power to dictate if these movies do well, and you chose this. Ecclesiastes 7:29 says, see, this alone I found, that God made man upright, but they have sought out many schemes. How do I interpret this into this context? Man begins with form, with order, with identity, and distortion comes after that. And that sequence really does matter. It matters because the meaning of a story comes from watching the fall of what was, from what was. You don't start there. You don't remove before the fall, especially when you're introducing the character. You don't do that. You don't show us this first. You show us who a person was beforehand. All the more reason why I preferred Ethan Bennett as Clayface. Honestly, the real shift here is modern storytelling is saying, make it real. Make it real. I want real. That's what people loved about the Snyderverse. It feels real. They're fighting at an IHOP and a 7-Eleven. Well, now you don't get a man who's made of clay. You get a man whose skin distorts and tears and pulls. Like, what? That's what we get. Because that's real. This is a perverted perception of what real is. Because what that really means to this audience who applauded and affirmed and are entertained by this kind of nonsense, it really means darker, more violent, more disturbing, more psychologically unstable. This movie is no different than The Substance, with the exception of the fact that it's male. But still, an actor whose face is messed up, obsessed with getting their best features back, and they take a substance. He literally takes a substance to get his face back. How is this any different than the movie with Demi Moore? It isn't. And according to this audience and to these creators, this distortion is presented as authenticity. I'm so sick of hearing that word. It is as irritating as the word influencer. I'm sick of it now. This dark, violent, distorted version, this is not real. This is not realism. What is the matter with these audiences? Real is real human stories, relationships, intimacy, moral struggles, the tension between justice and compassion. This is a real story. What you would have seen if this were Ethan Bennett and Bruce Wayne is struggling with being Batman in his friend's case. That's the story. You're going to present him to us all as this distorted, disgusting, grotesque figure first instead of a man who fell from grace. Who wants to watch that? Side note, it's supposed to be a comic book character. If I have to cleanse my palate with Melissa McCarthy videos, after watching the teaser trailer, this is not a movie I want to see. It has less humanity in it. And it's not realism to the audience who said that this is what they would be, if they were real, this is what they would be like. So where's the protagonist? Well, it is just a teaser. There's no plot, no story, no nothing. So still show me the detective, somebody who's trying to catch this guy. Don't try to make me feel empathy for a man I know is about to become a serial killer. He's just got these superpowers. He's a meta-human serial killer. That's all he is. And that's okay to these audiences, this disturbing version that they chose to go with. And let's be clear, because the DC Universe studio people are saying, well, no, this is from 1960s comic books. Even still, we were following this from Batman's perspective. What are we doing? There was something else in those reactions, and it's harder to ignore than the teaser trailer itself, because you could just not watch it. But it wasn't just acceptance. It was like this, they were pulled to the grotesque. Like that one reaction video where the guy said, it looks different, but I like different. I love different. Or this is interesting. This could be an awesome movie. That's far more disturbing than the teaser trailer itself. So putting aside how I feel about this character in the DC universe, because ultimately I'm asking myself, well, in the grand scheme of the DC universe, how the hell does this connect to a Batman movie? Into the Justice League, and to the secret society of villains that he's ultimately supposed to join. If you're going to do that, considering this is not the Clayface that joins the League of Villains. Okay. Putting that aside, how are you drawn to this? How? The only good thing that came from this teaser trailer was like, well, at least they didn't lie to you that this was a body horror movie. They literally told you. They show it to you. It's a body horror film, completely. But this isn't okay. No one had any fear of it, with the exception of when the score and the jump scares happened. There was no recoil the way I felt it. But engagement, what is y'all's problem? What in the actual F is the matter with these audiences? What in the actual F? This perverted perception of realism is disgusting. And it's uncomfortable. And that raises an uncomfortable question. What are people starting to resonate with? Because it clearly isn't the heroes anymore. Side note, this is the problem with anti-hero storylines. There are anti-hero means opposite of hero. You are not a hero, you are a villain. But when distortion becomes interesting, it stops being a warning. It becomes the preference of the audience. Granted, the studio created the demand, but now the audience has some control over the product. And still you are celebrating and choosing and engaging to watch this stuff. So much so, they made it okay to create Clayface and make it another Substance movie. It's disturbing, it's grotesque, and this connects to the quiet rise of the anti-hero crap. Not the flawed man wrestling with being good, but normalizing the fall itself and being in the fallen state. Normalizing that, and that it's okay to be in the fallen state, not watching the struggle of wanting to be restored from said state. None of that's there. None of that's in the trailer. None of it's present. No one's asking those questions. No one's trying to figure out what the heck is going on with this. Why is this the version? Why is it so gory? Why is it a body horror? Why not just make a version of Copycat? Which honestly is what I thought I was going to get when they said Clayface was going to be a horror movie. I thought Copycat, with Sigourney Weaver. Because if that's what I got, then would have had a compelling story. Tragedy is a part of the character's identity. The conflict, especially if it was the Ethan Bennett. No, what we get is a normalized fall where corruption is expected, goodness is dismissed, and redemption, it's optional. You don't have to. It's not expected. And it's done something to our culture. It has. Philippians 4:8, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, honest, just, pure. Think on these things. So that really just boils down to what we are engaging with is what is shaping what we as an individual believe to be normal. If a culture is celebrating distortion and grotesque imagery, morally detached characters, it's not just entertainment. You're conditioning yourself to believe this, that grotesque, disgusting, disturbing imagery is okay and it's normal because that is what the audience said. I'm not just putting my own feelings on it. This is what they said in the comment section of these reaction videos, that if they were real, this is what it would be. You have been conditioned to believe that this is realism. It is not. To the point where it's unrealistic for them, for there to be good in the world. Truth feels, oh, you're just being naive. And being hopeful is unnecessary because, well, this is just what it is. And it's honestly because those things have disappeared, but not because they just went away. It's because it stopped being reinforced and people just accepted that narrative in everything fiction, even in DC. Genesis 6:5. And honestly, this was the scripture that did it for me. This was the one that really, honestly, I think it brings the whole thing together. And I hope Christians who are watching this, really understand what I'm trying to say here. Genesis 6:5. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. How does that apply here? In this context, this is describing a moment where perception itself had shifted. Not just the behavior in IRL, but the imagination of the people, of our big studios, of our films and television series. What people are envisioning, what they have accepted, and what they have normalized. We have normalized grotesque disturbance. We've normalized it. The creators are bad because this is what they imagined. They imagined this without a Batman. This isn't told from the perspective of the detective dressed as a bat investigating these horrible murders. No, this is told from a man who's been made a victim and getting his grievance on those who made him one. What? And that's okay with the audiences? Why? We say we're good people. We say we're good. Well, good people go to hell all the time because our imagination is an extension of us. And so if your imagination has become distorted and disordered, then everything that follows reflects it. That is how you are demanding this type of product. Because in their sadistic imagination, they put it in our favorite franchises. We consumed it. We normalized it. Well, not we, because I know I didn't. But the audiences I saw reacting in favor of this loved it and are okay with it and normalized it and looked at it like it was the real thing. But understand, this isn't just about Clayface anymore. It's about what feels real to the audience now. When someone says that this is what the villains would be like in real life, you're just like, what is the matter with you now? What in the actual F about you? Because I knew the studios were on some stuff. I knew that when the curtain went up on Harvey Weinstein. I learned all that crap about how crazy and sadistic and evil Hollywood could be. I learned about that then. So I've known for over a decade now. I've known since then that Hollywood was on some stuff. But now I'm looking at the audience like they are insane. Like it's the evil that continued within you because you accepted this. The audiences who celebrated Clayface. Not those of you who are subscribed to this channel, because those of us who are subscribed to my Substack and to my YouTube channel, you guys are probably as disturbed as I was. A lowered expectation of humanity is what this audience is okay with. A normalization of grotesque disturbance is okay with that audience. A quiet abandonment of goodness and faith and belief in humanity just went away. That's all gone. Total abandonment of that. And they are okay with that. They responded to it. They love it. Calling this realism. Hogwash. It's not realism. It's evil continued. Their wickedness has continued in the spirit of the audience. 100%. Because if what they wanted was real, then they would understand that even in a teaser, I'd see a little bit more of a conflict. of a conscience, a struggle between right and wrong, not a man-made victim who becomes a serial killer to exercise his grievance on those who made him, because he's no better than Dexter. He's going to go around killing the people who effed up his face and who gave him the substance in the first place that made him this monster, and he's going to go around killing them in grotesque ways. And what's going to happen? The audience is most likely going to celebrate when he gets his kills. Something's wrong with the audience. This version of realism that this audience says that it is, it's assuming that people are already broken, that goodness is rare and or irrelevant, and disturbance is just the default, that it's okay. But that is not realism. That's loss of faith in humanity. And there's one last thing I have to say. One last thing I have to say, because I've observed this when I watched the reaction videos and read the comment section of these reaction videos, and I'm as heated. Because notice how this reaction video is more about the reaction to the teaser and not so much about the teaser. That'll come when the full trailer comes out. It will. I will watch the full trailer. Because at some point, I need to see what the heck the story is about, other than what my assumptions and... But I am super upset with how engaged this audience is. They were drawn to it like moths to a flame. That is bothersome. 100%. It bothered me. Like, in my soul, I felt it. And the fact that they didn't feel the same disgust is concerning. This is dark, it's monstrous, it's grotesque, it's disturbance, and they just said it's real? What is the matter? What in the actual F is the matter with these people? Because distortion has become engaging, disturbance, and grotesque body horror. That type of imagery is appealing, and it became the preference. Corruption isn't tragic anymore. It's what they want. It's expected. And if it's not there, they're not happy. It's a boring movie. And it's okay if we're not following this from a protagonist who's an actual hero, because anti-hero is okay, which essentially removes hope and faith. And this right here is why I have the Calvary. This right here. This is why I created my own superhero universe. When you think about my characters, I don't need grotesque imagery. For those of you who are subscribed to the America First AI Network publication, thank you, and I hope you guys are loving the series. A new episode 4 of the Calvary, comes out on Saturday. For those of you watching here on any one of my YouTube channels, please head over to the Substack, watch the show, subscribe for free. It is not paid content. It is free. And this is why. Because you need an alternative. One where you don't have to be disgusted and disturbed. Think about my characters, Claire and Damien. They have like this closeness and this relationship that feels emotionally intimate. But there's a dilemma here. Because the covenant with Christ requires purity. This is the only way one can summon the wonder. And yet, this relationship is here. What will Claire decide? That's in the story. Damien's choices, who he's loyal to, the Calvary, Christ, Claire, something else, someone else, this dilemma that he has. Did you have to see someone's skin be distorted to find the human characteristic to relate to? No. You know why? Because intimacy isn't disposable. It carries the consequence. That's what you get from the Calvary. My big and bad, Maximilian, the Zionist witch, yes, he's a Zionist witch. He tests these alignments with Christ, but not just in his behavior per se, not just in the spells that he casts and in the babies and children that he murders to maintain power, but in his seduction of wonder wielders, testing their loyalties to the king and to the Calvary. Did you need to see bloody violence for you to realize how big and bad he really is? No, you didn't. In the Calvary, there's friendship, tension, trust, responsibility. And when someone falls, it matters. It matters. It elevates the story even more because you're like, oh no, man, please don't do what I think you're about to do. That's how compelled you are, because it matters. You feel it. When someone makes a bad call, makes a bad decision, you feel that. Will this audience who reacted and enjoyed Clayface and the substance? Heck no. Heaven no. They couldn't possibly, because it's not disturbing. It doesn't continue that wickedness in their own spirit that they're clearly demanding from these studios. Because if they weren't demanding it, that chick who lied to the producer about the substance would be banned from directing for the next 2 to 5 years. Clayface would have totally be redone. The concept would have been redone the second they saw how people reacted to the substance if they didn't want it. But no, they knew they can keep going because the substance made money and it won a Golden Globe. My questions to you: what does it mean when a culture prefers disturbance over true identity? What does that mean of our society when that's what the audience is asking for? Specifically from a DC comic universe, because truth, justice, and the American way. How does this play into that? It doesn't. What does it say? What does it say about a people who say that this is more real? What kind of humanity are they expecting or expecting not to see? Like, what does it say about the audience? I know I've said a lot about them. I want to know what you guys think about them, because I know what I think, and I've said it without swearing. Proud of myself. So proud of myself. And if you're like me and you're a creative person and you have your own stories and your own superhero stories like the Calvary, in the worlds that you're building, are you restoring faith in people and in Christ? Or are you reflecting the loss of it? Because what you create doesn't just tell stories. It's not just about entertaining. It shapes what people come to believe about one another. You want to feel hope in humanity and faith in your king. That's how you want to feel when you watch a story. You want to feel emotionally compelled, and you want to see the moral dilemma. You want to see that, but you ultimately want to have faith in your fellow man, have hope in them that they will choose to be better. And so understand that that is your responsibility when you create. Leverage AI tools, yes, but be responsible. Don't be like the guy who created Dexter and says he is and has no responsibility for what happened when that little boy murdered his little brother. He is spiritually responsible for that situation. His wickedness continued, and it touched the soul of a little boy, and he killed his little brother. You are spiritually responsible for what you put out into the world, and do not do what these creators did with Clayface. Do not normalize disturbance and grotesque, vulgar, and violent, disgusting visual imagery. Don't get lazy. Have hope in mankind and have faith in your king, and that is a story you tell when you build your worlds. Honestly, that's exactly why I host my own school community and teach people how to do this, how to do it in music videos, because that's another thing, and how to do it in their own cartoons like the Calvary. Make sure you're clicking those links. Head over to the Substack if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on Substack and you want to learn how to make shows like the Calvary, so that way you can put your belief and your faith in a cartoon series like I do the Calvary, click on that link, head over to the school community, and I'm telling you, you're going to have a good time learning, creating, and being better than this crap that James Gunn created. You will not continue the wickedness. You will be better than that. Though we are clearly after the fall of man, clearly after the fall from the Garden of Eden, one doesn't have to live in that disturbance. One could aspire to be what man was envisioned to be pre-fall. And that's what you want to create. And that's what I show you how to create in the school community. So make sure you're clicking over and heading over to that. Again, I didn't mean to come off preachy, but that was killing me. And again, I will be reacting to when the full trailer comes out, if I can get through it. I'll still react if I can't, but just be prepared. And that one, there'll be no scriptures. It will most likely be what you got with the lanterns. And then all bets are off. I'm swearing up the OYZoo for that one. God bless you all. And until next time.